Let's talk about this because it's something that we've been following for a while. This is a story that keeps making its way into the news cycle, and this is to do with gender-based violence. 4 girls have been rescued in Juja following allegations of sexual abuse by their own father. The minors are also said to have been exposed to explicit sexual content by their protector turned tormentor, who took advantage of differences with the wife to prey on his own. Kevin Mutai has more on that disturbing incident, and we're going to be able to listen in to just some of the reactions. It's just, even as we get there, I was looking into something that the Daily Nation has been at the forefront, by the way, of reporting on stories, not just of gender-based violence, but of gender-based violence involving, let's say, incestuous cases. One of them was that between January 2018 and June 2021, 59 out of 160 reported incest cases involved fathers, with 48 incidents occurring at home, traditionally considered a safe space. I'll read two other some data. Other perpetrators, uncles in 36 cases, stepfathers in 20 cases, cousins 16, and grandfathers 14, also featuring prominently among offenders. Underreporting. Many cases go underreported or unreported due to fear, stigma, and community pressure to protect family reputation. And finally, the impact of COVID-19. Lockdowns led to a significant rise in defilement cases, with reports indicating a 70% increase. Now, some of these stories, one of them was written by Mora Obiria on the 3rd of August 2021, and the other one was by Dorothy Kweyu on July of 2023. So all of this data is courtesy of the Daily Nation, and I appreciate the Nation for continuing to just keep abreast on all of these evolving issues. I thought it was important to give that context because it makes you realize this isn't as uncommon as many think.
It's many things. So yesterday, it was in Wetavia. Wetavia is in Thika. But these children have been living in Trans Nzoia County, and the father and the mother are separated. The father has been taking them from Trans Nzoia County to his home away in Uasin Gishu to defile them at pleasure. This is the allegation. And then they ran away from home. They came to Wetavia in Thika, and the Cabinet Secretary for Gender, Culture and Arts, Hannah Cheptumo, went there in this rescue mission, accompanied by Ndungu Nyoro, who's the Executive Director of Affecto Foundation. Let's first hear from Ndungu Nyoro, who spoke in this particular story, and he was giving a background of how these girls came here, and then we shall hear from Hannah Cheptumo, the new CS for Gender and Arts and Culture.
The most recent, the eldest of them, found him with their youngest sister, who is less than 10 years old. And she had to ask Dad, are you really my real dad? Why would you do this to me and now even our youngest sibling? He used to tell their mother, I want to go with one of the children to go and help me out for the weekend. Or for the week if they have a closed school. And that is the time he would, be able to do all these.
He holds the children when they are very young and says, I have blood pressure, so when I hold the children on my laps, inasaidia pressure kwenda chini. So it is an innocent act, in the way it looks. And she wrote a message in her hand, and said, I have actually procured an abortion, and it is my dad who has done it. So she did it on her hand like this. My dad is responsible.
It's a sad story. I'd like to hear more of how they even end up in Wetavia in Juja, because they have been rescued by the Cabinet Secretary in Juja, and they have come all the way from Trans Nzoia, the 4 sisters. And then the issue that they were living in Trans Nzoia, and the father would take them to Uasin Gishu and defile them. This is such a huge, convoluted story. At the end of it all is that you'd like justice to actually happen here.
But as you've seen from the data, it's not an isolated.
It's not.
It's actually, this is the sadness. And first of all, heart goes out to those girls. That kind of trauma and PTSD in the hands of, somebody who's supposed to be a protector. But when you realize how widespread it is, it's almost more shocking or equally shocking to when you hear the incidents. It is very widespread, even places like the coast and many other parts. There's counties, there's enough reports to even list the counties where it's not just gender-based violence, but gender-based violence at the hands of fathers, uncles, and stepfathers and grandfathers. So it takes you back to, we can pursue justice for these girls, and we must, and then we must open up that Pandora's box to think about how many other girls are being held hostage, literally, in their homes. And then again, this issue of systems. Because people, I think, people will always push a boundary when they know there's no repercussions, right? I know that there's counties like, I can speak to Bungoma, for example. There's a social worker there who has done so much work. She made her home basically a safe house and then ended up having to get protection because the perpetrators were now coming for her. But she was like, as long as I'm on this earth, this thing has to break. And I think one of the new chief magistrates in the court was saying, now I'm with her. So you begin to see the pursuit of justice in the face of community, quote unquote, champions. These men who are gatekeepers, let me call them gatekeepers, it's very hard to pursue justice against a gatekeeper.
It is.
But they're daring to do that, and every single other county has to dare to do the same, because the repercussions are ostracization. Sometimes they'll attack you. They talk about how files and documents get lost in the courts. It's literally a systemic issue. I'm glad that we're profiling these stories more and more. I think it's again carrying those two truths. This is so traumatic to hear. And so while we're pursuing the system overhaul, we must also pursue psychosocial support for these girls who've been affected, and make sure that they are, again, end up in homes where they can live a trauma-free life. But there's too many places to fight on this story. There's too many areas to attack.
I know. I completely agree. I don't know where to begin. The obvious one, like you said, is the systems, because we cannot depend on humans to be good, on people to follow the law, on people to be empathetic or to be morally upright. If the systems aren't there to make sure that it is punishable and easily detectable, easily prosecuted when you do such things, then at the end of the day, we just keep doing the same thing over and over again. He got away, this dad must have gotten away with it for a while. It's emboldened him to move them from one place to another, to continue to do it over time. And like you said, it's not an isolated case. And the reason why it's not isolated is because the deterrent isn't there. It's just not enough. If there's not enough convictions, if there's not enough, for example, safe houses for women and who feel unsafe to have their children around their family members, their husbands, then where do they run to? Safe houses for just children who don't feel safe with their parents at all. If children protection services are not as active or as well equipped as we'd want them, we've spoken to them, they've said, you know what, we're spread thin, we're doing our best, but how many do we have per county? How do like several people traverse an entire county, you know?